Hello, amateurs, and welcome to another episode of Hot Topics. And I've got Phil Greenaway here with me today. Phil, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Tim. Good. Really, really good. It's been a nice, hot, sunny day here. I've got myself a little Asahi on the go, so no, looking forward to a chat.
Happy days, cheers.
Cheers.
And today we are gonna be looking at AGPs, artificial grass pitches. Now, I think most people see the constant stream of photos from the professional game of burns and people, having issues with it. But I visited a ton of clubs on my travels over the last couple of years in the community game, and the general consensus, actually the vast consensus, is people are fans of those pitches. But I understand you've got some thoughts to add to that, Phil. So go ahead with those.
Yeah, no, Tim. I just think, obviously, been in the role that I've been in at school for 10 years. And we've recently had an artificial turf put in, and that's just completely changed the way that we've operated on a weekly basis in terms of hourly contact time with the pupils we've got, and how often you can coach properly on a really decent service, how much contact you can do. And it's just made a massive difference in terms of just contactable hours of actually coaching rugby. So I've always been a big fan from my previous role at Hartbury when I was there, and at Gloucester we had one all the way back in 2004, which is nearly 20 years ago now. But I've just been re-energised by my thoughts and beliefs that they're a really good thing. As the world is getting warmer and wetter, council pitches are harder to come by, and space is being taken up with building developments, etc. And I think we've got an obligation to find surfaces for these kids to play sport on, not just rugby, but obviously we're talking about the amateur rugby podcast. So, and I think if we're going to inspire kids into the game for a longer period of time, we need to stop being, how many weekends are cancelled. My little girl plays football, my son plays rugby down at the local rugby club in Bromley, and the amount of sessions that are cancelled and the contact time is lost through pitches and things like that with the way the world is. I just think there's something that we really need to invest heavily in as a game.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about the lost opportunity. If the kids aren't getting time to play and to train and to do physical activities, what kind of issues might that cause?
Yeah, well, I think, if you look at the average grass pitch is normally supposed to be used between 2 and 6 hours a week. A dual decimal surface, you can get between 20, 30 hours a week, and basically an artificial full grass surface, you can basically use it, as many hours as you can light it. So I just think when you add that up, when you look at mental health, when you look at everything that's come out of COVID, where it's all about getting outside and exercising again, I just think that the opportunities, we know that the benefits of rugby in terms of teamwork, in terms of, contact area, in terms of all those bits and pieces. And I just think it makes a massive difference to their skill development across the board, whether that be isolated skills in the contact area, whether that be game understanding for small-sided games, whatever it is you're coaching and teaching. I think as a coach, if you can know you're going out to a surface that's going to be true, come rain or come shine, you can plan for that session. And I just think it makes such a difference in terms of the contactable hours you get with those pupils.
Interesting. Okay, so I'd like to. Not all AGPs are equal, obviously. So you sound like you've got a great broad range of experience there, going back almost 20 years. Just talk to me about what you've seen, from that first one in 2004 all the way to the modern day.
Yeah, well, I think that they're getting better all the time as well, Tim. I think this is such an area of growth. I think in the UK we're quite far behind where they maybe are in Europe on artificial grass surfaces. So the quality is getting better all the time. So the quality of the actual plastic surface is getting far better. They are now having to start looking at longer life. So we're all about sustainability now in that business, I think, and what happens to an end of life pitch, what happens to the rubber molecules at the end of their life, and obviously they were seen as a sustainable use because that's end of use car tires and truck tires that are actually in those infills. So the quality is getting better all the time in terms of reducing injury. The technology is getting better, and the longer you do something for, the more research you've got in terms of whether that be injuries that are caused. I know lots of players are talking about when they go from grass to artificial surfaces in training and the burns that they cause. But the longer we use these surfaces, the more data we've got to be able to sort of collect and advise us on what's the best way to use them. But I think that, obviously you've got the World Rugby standard, you've got the FIFA football standards that they have to reach. So look, as I said, I'm all in favour of them, but I think the quality is getting better all the time. Hopefully, the more people that are using them, the more affordable they're getting. I know that's a barrier to lots of clubs. But if I had if I was a philanthropist and I had a spare, bit of money knocking around, I know that one of the biggest ways I can make an impact in terms of London would be to put some artificial surfaces in to allow kids to get out and enjoy playing sport on more regularly.
Yeah, I mean, I know my time of coaching grassroots rugby, during those winter months, we used to regularly knock up the local school and get on their AGP pitches, and it was a bun fight because there weren't many around, and I guess there's a few more now, but still not enough. Now you kind of mentioned it there about the injuries. I don't know if you know anything about this, but I've just got this kind of thought that maybe if the kids are growing up and playing on these surfaces from a young age, they'll develop, and you won't see the kind of soft tissue injuries or the joint injuries that are sometimes happening in adults now that haven't had that as they're growing up. Has that got any legs to it at all, do you think?
Do you know what, Tim? I'm not sure. It probably has. It probably has. But I couldn't be certain on that. But yeah, hopefully it's got some, as people are more used to using them, more used to playing on those surfaces and training on those surfaces. Hopefully that will create less risk of injury. I think at the top end of the game, they're almost so powerful, and moving between the grass surface and the AGP, I think that's probably what causes a difference. And then if AGPs aren't really well maintained, as in the ones that we used to train on down at Colfs, for example, they're probably not maintained as well, and the compaction of the sand on that facility will have caused a huge issue. So I think as long as they're maintained properly, then they'll be outstanding for years to come.
Yeah, talking of the maintenance, when I was up in Scotland, I went to, I think it was Cumnock Rugby Club, and they've just had 2 brand new AGPs laid basically in the middle of town. So they're unfenced. So when I was there, they were just full of kids running around, playing, doing free play. Now, obviously, they can't really maintain those pitches, but they were just like, we'd prefer the kids to be able to use it rather than have to lock it up and rake it every other day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, an AGP doesn't take a huge amount of maintenance. Literally you just have to ruffle up you can get a tractor, which will come, you can put all that put in as part of the sort of the package when you buy it. But it literally, you drive the tractor up and down it once a week, like Forrest Gump in the film, just sitting on his mower, going up and down. And that just ruffles the rubber compaction and just, makes it less compact, so it's less hard surface. So they don't take a vast amount of maintaining. But as long as they're done properly. But yeah, look, one of the biggest travesties I think is seeing those surfaces and not seeing them in use. That's when lots of people will have them, but you want them in use, and you want them to be everyone in the community to benefit from them. Whether that be the local football club, local rugby club, whoever it might be. If they're building these surfaces, they should be in use as long as there's floodlights on and just getting people out there.
Yeah. So, just talking about the pro game again at the moment and the burns that we're seeing in there, do you think the sort of the newer generation pitches are getting better and better, so the burns are becoming less frequent? And I know obviously that skins are allowed now in rugby, so that can help as well. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think the game is changing in what's acceptable and what's not acceptable now. So, I think, if you'd have seen a player in a pair of skins 20 years ago, I think, that person might have had a really tough night in the bar afterwards. But I think everyone's used to it now, aren't they? It's becoming more the norm, and player safety, player welfare is really, really important. I think as long as you can get a really good company to lay a really good 3G and then maintain it properly, I think that makes the world of difference, and whatever it takes to keep players safe. I think lots of clubs are now going with these deso surfaces, so it's a mixture of where the infill, where the grass is intertwined with a plastic fibre. So again, that increases the quality and the longevity of use. That's not what we would be talking about here. I don't think we'd be talking about the AGPs at Saracens and places like that. But I also think they're a massive. Rugby's struggling financially, isn't it? Across the board in the Premiership and everywhere. And I know for lots of clubs there'll be a massive funding stream. In a way of generating income. So My local football club near to me here, Bromley, they've got an AGP, but if they get promoted into the football leagues, they have to rip it up and start all over again because the FA don't allow them, which seems bonkers to me because not only have they lost a first-class pitch they've been used to playing on, they've also lost a massive source of revenue for the club that's probably sustained the club and allowed them to get to that level. So, look, injury-wise at the top end, I'm sure it does affect certain players, but for me, I guess it's no different than playing on a really rock hard surface in August and September. The burns, as I said, the burns. You see all those horrific things that go around on Twitter. I think you tend to see less of those now, and they're not. You don't tend to see as many of them. And whilst we were all romantic and would love to see the game played on grass, I think we have to deal with the reality. The reality is that as I said, if you're not involved in a top club somewhere, then financially you're not going to have the resources to input into those facilities. So, we need to get kids playing and keep them playing for as long as possible.
Now, you mentioned Gloucester right at the start of the conversation there. I grew up just down the road in Cheltenham. I know what the culture of rugby is like in Gloucester. What do you think the reaction was there in the shed when they found out they were going to be getting an artificial pitch?
Do you know what? I don't know. I don't know. I can imagine, Tim, what it might have been like. But if that means that every school kid in the local Gloucester community can now say they've run around on King's Own, I think that's probably a great thing. So try and flip it to the positives, and that more people get the opportunity to play on King's Own more often. I think they're playing a really good brand of rugby, this year. I think they've scored some great tries in the last couple of years since they've had that surface. So it's maybe changed the brand of rugby that the shed we're used to, whilst they've still got, one of the most powerful driving mauls. I do understand that, the traditionalists out there, but as I said, I do think we're at the time now where rugby is struggling so much and so many issues. I think that, clubs are struggling for finances and stuff. And I think there are so many boxes that this ticks. I think everybody can hopefully see the positives.
Okay, and lastly, what do the kids think? The kids that you're coaching, is it even a thing for them nowadays, or is it just another day when they happen to be training on an artificial pitch rather than grass?
Yeah, they absolutely love it. They absolutely love it, and you can get so many kids on a full size pitch. We've had first to ninth football teams all training on there all at the same time. We've had first to fifth rugby we've had a whole year group of 120 kids out there playing rugby all at the same time. And they absolutely love it. They absolutely love it. Parents also really love the fact they don't have to necessarily wash the muddy kit as often. What they don't enjoy necessarily quite so much is the rubber that comes back in their trainers and their socks. But the kids absolutely love it. They absolutely love being on there.
Okay, amazing. Right, we'll bring this to a close. But before we do, have you got sort of any final thoughts or anything you want to sort of finish up with saying?
No, just to say, as I said, I don't ever think I would have been somebody who'd have been talking in such a positive light about those surfaces until I'd seen it myself. I was always a traditionalist. You mentioned the King's Own. I grew up at the county ground in Exeter, and we used to water that on a Thursday and a Friday if we were playing anyone who played any expansive rugby on a Saturday. So that's the sort of environment I grew up in, and but I think they're great things. I think as I said, they can make a real difference to the quality of experience that the kids get. And so I'm a convert.
Okay, amazing. Okay, what about you people listening at home? Phil's a fan. I think I am too, generally speaking. Having never played on one and never coached on one, I don't have first-hand experience, but it seems to be quite positive. But what do you think? Have you played on an artificial pitch? Did you enjoy it? Do you prefer it? I'd love to hear. So let's hear it in the comments below, and we'll get a conversation started there. If you've enjoyed this little hot topics, then I'd appreciate a thumbs up and a subscribe if you haven't already. And it just leaves me to say, Phil, thanks very much for your time.
Cheers, Tim. Thanks very much.